I was a selfish young mother and felt some anger at having become a mother so early in my life. And I thought, I'm not going to like this baby when he's born. And he was born, and I loved him. Well, I'm going to not like him after he gets to be 2 years old. And he got to be 2 years old, and I loved him. I just ended up loving him his whole life, and I would just give anything to be able to have him back.
Wow! Let's go! Nice, Matt!
Beyond our families, what lives beyond us? What we said, what we did, what we gave.
I look out here in this big sea of faces, and I see my son's face coming back at me.
Legacy means the power of what you leave behind. And what Mark left behind was having helped to start a movement.
I look mom. I hate that. Why do you make me do that?
Oh, is that me?
As a boy growing up in Northern California, raised by a single mother, Mark Bingham loved seeing life through his camera.
I am perfectly normal right now, and I look normal.
From music videos to short movies.
Oh, hey, I'm gonna drink some milk. Wanna see?
To a running video diary.
Oh, what a shot!
He also loved to compete. By the time Bingham was in high school, he found a sport that quickly became a passion.
I remember the day that Mark came home looking pretty roughed up, like he'd been playing something pretty hard, scuffs on his hands and feet. Mom, I've got a new sport, rugby.
Rugby, for me, has been the total, I don't know, it's sort of like the sum total of my life.
Rugby became this thing that just things clicked for him. He was getting stronger, he took a leadership position, it was just a way that he could just channel his energy, maybe even aggressive energy in a positive way.
After captaining his high school team for 2 years, in 1988, Bingham landed on Cal's rugby team, one of the best in the country.
You know, he's a 6'4" guy, 6'5" guy. And he ran real balanced, and you could tell that he was a pretty solid athlete. We won a big championship in 1991. We'd been out of the winner's circle for a couple years, so it felt really good.
Bingham's willingness to dive into adventure and to defend what he loved went beyond the rugby pitch, as he proved his senior year during the Cal-Stanford football game.
The Stanford Tree mascot decided to come over and taunt us in front of the student section.
And so he announced to his buddies, we're going to go down there and get that kid.
And he goes right at the tree and just tackles it. Its big fabric eye goes flying. Then he looks up and notices the police are descending upon him.
And then Mark decided the best way to get away from the police was to run up through the Stanford stands, and that didn't work too well for him.
Yeah, one Cal student was taken away with handcuffs.
At Cal, impassioned fan and champion rugby player were the core of Bingham's public identity. But there was another part of him he'd kept hidden from most in his life, even from his mother.
Hi.
How you doing?
Fine. Mark had invited me up to Cal so that we could spend the day together, and he said, Mom, I promised myself I would tell you something before the sun went down. He launched into this long explanation of his life, and then I just heard the two words, I'm gay. And then he started up in this long description again. I was silent. I mean, I was pretty shocked. I think Mark sensed that it might be tough for me to hear because I'd been so anti-gay most of my life. Now my son, my most beloved person in the whole world, was telling me he was gay. And I knew that I had to come to grips with it and change, and I did.
Only out to those closest to him, Bingham graduated from Cal in 1993 and devoted himself to work and traveling the world.
That's pretty intense.
In the years that followed, there was still no way to merge his two identities, gay man and rugby player. While playing on club sides in San Francisco, he heard about a different kind of team just forming, one that was predominantly gay, the Fog.
He was in the closet as a rugby player until he joined the Fog. It was really a sort of a second coming out, that, you know, you've had your gay life, you've had your rugby life, the two were separate, and so that separation was painful. As we started practice, he felt that his two worlds were becoming one.
In 2000, the Fog became a member of the Northern California Rugby Union, just the second inclusive rugby team to be officially recognized in the United States.
So Mark was psyched. It just symbolized the fact that we were both gay-friendly and that we were a real rugby team, you know, and so it was a real milestone for him.
New York City, baby!
We saw the Statue of Liberty, we saw Ellis Island, and I'm deeply in love.
As Bingham's rugby life grew, so did the public relations firm he founded as he looked to expand to the East Coast.
Now Mark, you're 30 and the big boss. Your hands don't get dirty, but there's major hair loss.
He started traveling back and forth in the late 90s. He considered opening an office in New York, and he did. And so that's what he was doing on the morning of September 11th, 2001. He was coming back from New York to San Francisco.
We just got a report in that there's been some sort of explosion at the World Trade Center in New York City.
Now remember, oh my God.
That looks like a second plane. We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
Both trade towers have now been hit. There is chaos here.
Within the space of 17 minutes that morning, 2 hijacked airliners were flown into the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. At that time, Mark Bingham was aboard his own flight, United Flight 93, which had also been hijacked.
United 93, Cleveland.
I got some please sit down. Keep remaining sitting. We have a bomb aboard.
Sector 956, did you understand that transmission?
Affirmative, he said there was a bomb on board.
I heard the phone ring, and I heard Mark's voice. He said, "Mom, this is Mark Bingham," using his last name. "I just want to tell you I love you. There are 3 guys on board who have taken over the plane, and they say they have a bomb."
United 93 may have a bomb on board.
"You believe me, don't you, Mom?" And I said, "Yeah, Mark, I believe you." "Who are those guys?" I asked, and he became distracted and pulled away again, and then they just faded out. And
United 93 is 29 minutes out of Washington, D.C. and tracking towards it. This is the one who reversed course in Ohio.
By the time the call ended, near 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time, with the Twin Towers ablaze and the Pentagon hit, it was clear America was under attack. Family and friends, knowing he had been in New York, desperately tried to reach him.
You have 44 unheard messages.
Mark, Amanda, where are you? Call me, please. Bye.
Mark, hey, it's Derek. We, of course, have heard the news and just want to make sure that you're okay.
Mark, it's Bryce. Listen, just calling to let you know that a couple of guys on the rugby team just wanted to know how you are.
Alice called her son back on his cell phone at 9:54 a.m. and left a message.
Mark, this is your mom. The news is that it's been hijacked by terrorists. They are planning to probably use the plane as a target to hit some site on the ground. If you possibly can, try to overpower these guys if you can. Okay, I love you, sweetie.
he was quite a leader. He could galvanize people into action and make a run on that cockpit and get those killers out of the cockpit.
United 93, have you got information on that yet?
Yeah, he's down.
He's down?
Yes.
When did he land? Because we have confirmation.
He did not land.
Oh, he's down?
When we knew that Mark was on one of the flights that went down, and we knew that that was the one plane that didn't make the target, we knew what kind of person he was. And I think we all had an inkling that we knew what he would have tried to do. without question.
According to the 9/11 Commission report, 4 passengers on United 93 stormed the cockpit, forcing a struggle inside, causing the plane to crash into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, preventing it from reaching its target, the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Todd Beamer, Tom Burnett, Jeremy Glick, and Mark Bingham were those passengers. Bingham was 31 years old.
It gives me a lot of strength and comfort to know that he died fighting. I hope that they were so involved in saving the lives of the people on the airplane that they lost track of the fact that their lives were slipping away.
On the Cal campus, more than 1,000 mourners, family, friends, and some of those he saved, gathered to honor him.
I didn't know Mark Bingham, but I wish I had. I may very well owe my life to Mark and the others who summoned the enormous courage and love necessary to deny those depraved, hateful men their terrible triumph.
Most people before that couldn't have imagined that there would be a strong, powerful gay rugby player that would get up and basically kill the terrorists and crash the plane and save the Capitol. So I think it transformed a lot of people's thinking. I know it did.
Okay.
What lives beyond us?
I'm a star. I'm an action hero.
What?
I got a phone call, I think it was in early 2002, and said, we're getting together to have a rugby match in Mark's name, and we'd like you to come.
At the time, there were 7 inclusive rugby teams in the world. Every team came to play. At the end, Bingham's team, the Fog, won the first Bingham Cup.
Oh, Mark would be so proud of you.
Oh, Mark is proud.
The spirit of Mark Bingham lives on today in us. It gives me great pride to present the first annual Bingham Cup to his home team, the San Francisco Fog.
Next thing you knew, we're hearing about another club has started in Tennessee, or another club has started in Europe, and another club has started in Australia, and then it was like, next year there's 12, and next year there's 20. And they heard Mark's story, and they decided, okay, I'm gonna come out to my friends, and I'm gonna play rugby too.
This is what the Bingham Cup has become.
To play the team that Mark Bingham, wore the jersey and built this whole movement around a massive experience and privilege for you guys.
This is legacy, this is history, right? We change that today.
1, 2, 3, come on, boys!
More than 1,100 players, gay and straight. The largest inclusive rugby tournament in the world.
I just want to say that your son is definitely one of my heroes, and I want to thank you so much for being here and letting us be a part of this. So I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
One of the most touching parts of being Mark Bingham's mother at the Bingham Cup is to hear the stories of young gay men who have gravitated to the Bingham Cup and to gay rugby and to Mark's memory.
He's the image for what it means for a gay man to play an aggressive sport like rugby. Mark's story helped me be comfortable coming out and being an openly gay man.
I think this is his legacy, He was brave enough to start gay rugby on the pitch. He was brave enough on that plane to fight off the terrorists.
At the end, there was more than victory. There was pride.
It's a real honor and pleasure for me to be able to award the Bingham Cup to the very worthy Melbourne Chargers.
Nearly 20 years later, what lives beyond Mark Bingham? The lives he saved, of course, but also the lives he changed.
He said that we need more gay heroes. Mark has become what he said the gay world needed.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.